Okay, one of the big stories that's going on right now is the situation with Credit Suisse. You know, the very large investment bank, wealth management bank in Zurich. You know, that's one of the largest, oldest banks in the world, and it's on like the verge of failure. Now, that failure is not guaranteed. Like, they could still pull it back and save it. Like, this is not like a completely terminal situation, but it's closer to the edge than anybody related to the bank would want it to be. And the particular dynamic to this is its relationship with Deutsche Bank. The two are very close. If Credit Suisse fails, Deutsche Bank's going to go right with it. And if Deutsche Bank goes with it, that's going to hit a lot of other banks in the European Union. And be safe to say that it would do a significant amount of damage to banks in the US as well. Because when the original bank bailouts in 2007, 2008 occurred, one of the banks that got bailouts was Deutsche Bank, even though it was US taxpayer money that went to a German bank. Because if it failed, it would crush American banks as well, because it would, like a chain reaction. So basically, these banks are very intertwined, and if one follows, the other could go with it. Okay. So basically, Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank are at distressed valuations. I mean, they're being, like, people don't want it. They're trading stocks away because it's in a bad financial situation. And to pull themselves out of this, Credit Suisse will have to go through a painful restructuring, which means deciding which stuff they're going to keep, which stuff they're going to get rid of, who's going to keep their job, who's going to get lost, who's going to get fired in a downsizing, etc. Now, Deutsche Bank has a lot to say about this because, you know, if Credit Suisse fails, they fail too. So Deutsche Bank says they need to sell securitized products. Credit Suisse needs to sell securitized products if it's going to be able to continue business. Now, there's a capital gap, meaning that the loss the bank has suffered of about 4 billion Swiss francs. That's a lot of money. And this is, you know, also related to Archegos Capital, which Credit Suisse was invested in, that lost 5 billion US dollars. Okay, so they have to raise new money, new capital, to deal with this huge deficit. One of the easiest ways would be to just ask shareholders to chip it in and then pay it back. That's one option. Or you could take on some other investments, etc. Okay, so Credit Suisse has been around for a very, very long time. It's one of the biggest, oldest banks, and that's the big bank that has the, you know, we don't ask questions about who you are or where your money came from kind of thing, just so long as you invest, which leads to a lot of criminal enterprise and wealth hiding, etc. That's just some background there. So it's a capital light wealth management business. So basically, if a billionaire has a bunch of money and he wants it to grow larger, because it always has to grow larger because that's the logic of capital, they give the money to the bank and say, hey, can you invest in this? Invest in something to make me money. And then the wealth management people get together and they say, okay, well, we think this is going to do good, we think this is good, and then we do the investment, and then the investment gets a return, and the bank gets a percentage of whatever new wealth was created for that client. And that's basically the idea. This sounds very similar to what Morgan Stanley did, which is one of the banks that was too big to fail back in 07, 08. Yes, because that is very similar, but there are some differences. For example, they have some regulation that American banks don't, because I don't know, American bankers insane. I'm not really sure. So right now you've got the board of directors, like, basically meeting in Singapore, trying to figure out how they're going to deal with this crisis, how to get that money, and what they want to cut, what they don't want to cut. Probably the higher reward, bigger risk ones they're probably going to cut for, you know, solid investments that they know are most likely to work out. So it's almost like guaranteed money, cutting the riskier stuff to avoid any potential disaster if that stuff doesn't pan out. Now, what they have announced, and they said they are going to do, is they're going to the trading of mortgage loans is going to be reduced. Now, if you remember, trading mortgage loans was the thing in the U.S. that caused the Great Recession. That's another long explanation that's going to take another video to explain. But basically, they're cutting the thing that caused the Great Recession in the U.S. And that seems to be the one main thing that all the board members can agree on. So that's where they're going to be for there. So basically what happened was they have a CEO in charge of the bank. He made certain decisions. Those decisions didn't work out, and they lost a lot of money. There's really nothing new here. But the situation is a little bit complicated because it's much bigger than this, than what I'm describing. But it really is just a case of they invested in certain stuff and that stuff didn't work out. So they had to replace the CEO, bring in a new guy. But that's just to make it as simple as possible. It's more complicated than that, but that's just the easiest way of putting it.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.